Hello, this is Brenda Green, and I'd like to welcome you to Livinginthego. My presentation today is called Millennials and Money. I want to look at different age groups, millennials, Generation Xers, and baby boomers, and see how they handle their money. So I started a three-part series, and this is the first. I wanted to get a view in terms of how millennials thought about their money. So if you are a millennial, a parent of a millennial, or just curious for a better perspective, then this presentation is for you. I interviewed 10 millennials from the ages of 24 to 34, males, females, some single, some who had children, some who were living with their parents, some were unemployed. What I learned gave me some new insights, and basically it got me thinking in terms of what could I do to help reach out to this demographic. So let's get started. So the topics that I'm going to cover were driven by what I learned in these interviews. So what are your money concerns? Do you have student loan debt? Do you know how to actually pay your bills? And are you thinking about retirement? First, I want to cover a few facts that I learned about millennials. In the United States, there are 79 million millennials here. Their purchasing power is $170 billion a year. That's a lot of money. On average, they send about 20 tweets per day. And by the year 2030, they will make up 50% of the workplace. 80% of millennials sleep with their phone by the bed. 27% of millennials are self-employed. 56% think technology helps people be more efficient. 59% of millennials have a Twitter account, but only 15% use it. They're actually using other platforms such as Instagram or Snapchat. 31% of millennials lead the life that they want to based on the income that they're making. And 41% have no landline, so they use their cell phone strictly and pretty much for everything. So the question that I posed first to my millennial group was, what are your major money concerns? And most of the people that I talked to had some similar challenges. They said that spending and not knowing where the money was going was a concern, that they hadn't really started their retirement. The ones who had children were thinking about putting money aside for their kids to go to college, but they weren't sure how that was going to happen. A bigger concern was a job loss, because if they lost their jobs, what were they going to do? Budgeting, or the lack of it, most of them didn't really know how to put a proper budget together. And the last thing was paying their student loan debts. So I want to start with the student loan debt. Most millennials who went to college have some student loan debt. In fact, the average student loan debt for the class of 2017 was $39,400. That's up 6% from last year. Student loan debt is higher here in the U.S. than consumer loan debt. It can certainly be a source of financial pain, because if you are underemployed, and quite a few of the millennials are, then it will take forever to pay the loan off. If you are in deferment, then interest continues to grow. And that just means that you've made an arrangement with the creditors to not pay right now because you're not making enough. But that loan just gets bigger and bigger. So you want to be mindful of that. Keep in mind, too, that student loan debt can't be discharged in bankruptcy. You can sometimes consolidate the bills if you have several loans, but again, make sure that you're looking at this information, reading all the fine print, because if you consolidate your bills, you may get into something that's a little harder. The payments may be more challenging. They may not be as forgiving if you aren't paying on time. So be mindful of that, be aware. Now, there are student loan forgiveness programs, and you can look into that as well. There's studentaid.ed.gov. If you go to that site, to see if you actually qualify for loan forgiveness. But the main thing that I want you to know is that never ignore the debt because it affects your credit score, possible job prospects, and so on. It will be reported on your credit bureau, and like I said, it's forever. You'll look up and they'll be taking it out of your Social Security check. I'm not kidding. So work with the lenders, get a reasonable payment plan, and try not to defer. Now, in terms of how to pay your bills, and I have talked about this before in some of my other presentations, because it's not just a millennial thing. Quite a few people are sometimes a little confused in terms of how to pay their bills. So let's talk about that. First, make sure you prioritize your bills. There are levels of importance. For example, pay your rent, pay your car note. If you don't have a car, it means you can't go to work or even look for work if you're unemployed. The second thing is to pay your student loans before your credit cards. Again, student loans are forever and they can't be discharged in bankruptcy. Most of the time, the credit card companies will send you to collections, but they usually don't sue you. So you'll have to deal with that on your credit bureau. But those student loans, again, they continue to grow. They don't go anywhere. With a credit card, if you don't pay that bill, eventually it'll stop. It'll go on your credit bureau as a bad thing, but it doesn't continue to grow. Number 3, never pay late. If your car note is due on the 30th and you get paid on the 1st and the 15th, pay your car note on the 15th. Late is late. And they will come and take that car from you if you aren't paying it. The repo man is not pretty. Number 4, know what the interest rates are on your debt. And so many people I talk to aren't really clear. They have credit cards, they have student loans, they can't tell you what the interest rate is. So today, go and take a look at all your debt and see what the interest rates are. If it's credit card debt, you can contact the companies and say, my rate is high, what can you do to help me? You can also, if they say no, go to the next level, talk to a supervisor, but they should be able to work with you. In terms of your student loans, again, if you're working with the creditors, talk to them about the rates being high and see if there's anything that you can do to get that lowered. It doesn't hurt to ask, and it's a freebie. You don't need anybody to help you do that. You can do that on your own. Number 5, never co-sign for anyone unless you're prepared to pay the bill. It just means that someone could come to you and say, you know, really, if you just sign this, I could get it. I'm going to pay the payments. You never have to worry. And my thought is, if they were that trustworthy, then they wouldn't need a co-signer. If you co-sign, be prepared to put that in the rotation and pay that bill if they don't pay. Now, there's a bigger part to budgeting, and that's knowing how to allocate your money. So let's cover that now. And I'm talking about budgeting that really works. Years ago, Senator Elizabeth Warren and her daughter wrote a book called All Your Worth. And this is way before she was a senator. She's been focused on consumer debt and creditors and making sure that people are getting a fair deal for a long time. So she wrote this book, and it's really a good read. I've read it several times, and it's very helpful. But it breaks it down simply for you in terms of how your money should be allocated with the 50-20-30 rule for budgeting. So let me give you an example. Let's say you bring home $2,000 a month after taxes. That means that you only have $1,000 to pay for your essentials. That would be 50%. So that would be your rent, your utilities, groceries, and transportation. That leaves 20% or $400 for your savings and your retirement. Out of that bucket, you would also be paying your credit card bills. So again, if you have no debt, that just gives you more money that you can save. Think of debt as something that's taking away from your future. Now the last bucket, 30% or $600, is for everything else. So you want to have a life, you want to be able to do some things, have some entertainment. So the key here is getting everything in balance, making those adjustments. I want to remind you that the cable bill and the gym membership are not essentials. They would fall into your lifestyle bucket. Balance is key. So if you take a look at all your bills, and I want you to do that, and put them into these buckets, and then look at the percentages and see where you fall. Because once you know and have the information, then you can make those adjustments. It doesn't have to be today, but it's a goal that you could work towards to get into balance. Now, I talked to this group about retirement, and some of them thought maybe it was too soon because of their age. Some of them were thinking about it, but they hadn't done anything to get started. Their money is being allocated somewhere else. So I say it's never too soon to be thinking about a retirement plan. The younger you are, the better, because it gives you more time. So if you have a job with a retirement plan, then take advantage of it. It's an automatic. They could just take it out of your check before you get it, and you will get used to it. You won't feel a thing. Compound interest is really your friend, and the longer your money has to grow, the more it will make. So again, if you're looking at budgeting, making those small adjustments, you might find a way to free up $10, $15, $20 a month. And slowly, it doesn't have to be big all at once, but you can slowly start putting some money towards your retirement, starting with a savings account. Whatever you need to do but to get that momentum going. But try. Now, as always, I have my beliefs, and these are things that I'm thinking about, especially now when I'm talking to these various groups. I'm learning some things, and it's some good things, so I want to share those with you. Time is on your side. Save and invest now when a little goes a long way. This is the time to make mistakes, but make sure you learn from them. I promise you, when I was younger, oh my God, I made so many money mistakes. I didn't think I would see my way through, but I'm here today to tell you that everything is okay, because as I made each of those mistakes, I put a checkbox and say, I'm never going to do that again. So I learned and I grew. You can start small, but dream big. Maybe you don't have the things that you want today. Doesn't mean you're not going to get them, but you start to think about it. You make goals. You dream about it. You work toward those things. That's really how it happens. Nothing happens overnight. Plans are good, but specific goals are better. So take some action today, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and so on. Because that's the key. You might make a mistake, you might slip back, but then the next day you move ahead, and it's okay. There's a wealth of knowledge to be tapped with millennials, and I don't want to lose sight of that. I think sometimes people feel like millennials can't teach us anything. Well, that is definitely not true. And the key to that is communication. It's a good place to start. I had some wonderful conversations with my millennials. I learned some things from them, and hopefully they learned some things from me as well. So that's where you start. So in summary, it's important to understand what your money concerns are and to start to address them. Don't ignore them. The same thing with your student loan debt, because it is forever. So have conversations with the creditors, figure out how you're going to work through those. Prioritize your bills and make sure your home and your transportation are paid first. Learn how to budget and to maximize your paycheck. It's never too early to start thinking about retirement. And you want to go beyond thinking. Thinking it's good, having a plan is better, and then implementing it. That's the next step. And then you want to track your progress, because those little wins are wonderful. I'm telling you, when I was going through some very trying times with my finances, every time I made a positive step, every time I paid a bill off, I made this little ching ching sound. People who know me know when I say that it's a money thing, because it felt good to get something done, to check it off my list and know that I had accomplished it, and I felt great about it. So track your progress. So as always, I want to thank you for your time and your attention. I hope you got something from this. I know I did. If you enjoyed this presentation, make sure you hit the subscribe button and tell all your friends, because we're starting a movement. Knowledge is power, and knowledge is key, and I want everyone to have as much knowledge as possible so we can move forward. Have a great day.